Out with the old, in with the new. Okay, let's call it to order. City Clerk.
Councilmember Agency Director Mann.
Present.
Marcus. Here. Cilio.
Is here.
Vice Mayor, Vice Chairman Smith.
Here.
Mayor Chairman Paris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The invocation tonight is with Pastor John Medders from the Christian Life Assembly.
Let's pray. Lord Jesus, we thank you that you have made it possible for us to come into the presence of God to present our requests. And tonight, Lord, I pray for our city council that you would continue to bless them, continue to guide them, continue to give them wisdom. And Lord, I pray your protection over them, that you would protect their families and protect their health. Lord, I also pray for our city departments that at the laws that are made in these chambers, that you would help them as they carry them out. I also pray for our city, Lord, that your hand of protection would be over the streets of our city. This week, Lord, the accidents that I've witnessed and the many emergency vehicles passing down the streets of our city, Lord. Father, I pray that you would be with our emergency workers, guide them, protect them, Lord God, as they serve us so well. But Father, protect the streets of our city, I pray. And be with this meeting tonight. Let your blessing be upon it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Vice Mayor, you want to read the Pledge of Allegiance?
Thank you. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have a student speaker tonight, Jared Simmons from Palmdale Learning Plaza. Is Jared here? Hey, come on up. Go ahead and use that mic.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Jared Simmons. My subject today is independence. Independence. We like this word. It reminds us of freedom, liberty, and rights that did not exist until independence came. Americans are big on independence. We treasure the benefits of freedom, which this country has enjoyed for well over 200 years. We have set aside this special day for yearly celebration. We all know about July 4th, 1776. But how many know about July 4th, 1946? It is a special day to the people of my Filipino ancestry. If you are aware of the history of the Philippines, you know of the occupation by the Spanish, the Japanese, and even the Americans. It was the Americans who decided to grant independence to the Philippines. There has been a close friendship between the two countries ever since. It is one thing to be independent. It is another thing to handle independence responsibly. Certainly, not all countries have done that. Let all of us Americans, regardless of our ethnic backgrounds, dedicate ourselves to treasuring the blessings we enjoy and work to see that they remain available for the generations that follow us. Thank you.
Okay, we have a presenter, Jack Piggott, from AV Solar Ranch 1 photovoltaic project.
Good evening. I'm Jack Piggott. I'm Director of Project Development for Nextlight Renewable Power. And I've just come here tonight to, as information, to make a presentation about our project. And let's see. And what I want to talk about, first of all, is who Nextlight is, and second, about the project itself. Nextlight is a solar development company. That's all that we do, and we've been in business since late 2007. So really, we're on our second year right now. We're made up of about 25 energy professionals that have developed various types of projects throughout the western U.S. We're owned by a private equity fund. It's called Energy Capital Partners. And the fund itself is made up of university endowments. The biggest partner is CalSTRS, the California State Teachers Retirement System. And CalSTRS was the one, when they agreed to join Energy Capital Partners, to want to have part of or one of their companies develop renewables in California, and so that's how Nextlight came to be. The Energy Capital Partners Fund is $2.25 billion. So we're well funded. We're technology agnostic. We actually can do solar thermal or photovoltaic projects. We don't make equipment ourselves. We develop, build, and operate projects. And so the project that I'm here to tell you about is the AV Solar Ranch 1. It's in unincorporated LA County, Antelope Valley. It's on Avenue D and about 170th Street West. There it is up on the map. It's made up of a farm. It used to be known as the Larson Ranch. And Nextlight owns it in fee. And we're developing a 230 megawatt photovoltaic project there. The project itself will be a tracker design. It's PV panels just like you'd put on your house, and except that they're on trackers that track the sun from east to west over the course of the day. We'll be interconnecting to the new Tehachapi transmission lines that are being built by Southern California Edison, and we'll be connecting to the Whirlwind substation, which is about 3.5 miles north of the project. We've been working with Supervisor Antonivich's office in a public outreach program. We've met with a number of different organizations. The nearest community is Antelope Acres, and they have agreed to support us. So they've issued a letter of support, and they're behind the project. We've met with the Poppy Reserve and the Interpretive Society and the Sierra Club and a number of other groups that normally have an interest in solar projects, and they either support or have taken neutral positions. Part of the outreach is the reason why I'm here today. The project itself, being PV, does not use water to speak of. We use a little bit for washing the modules, but it's approximately, during operations, approximately 12 acre-feet a year. That's 1/100th of what was used when it was a farm. We're undergoing a permitting process through LA County, and the project itself will have a fairly low impact. It has a low profile. And we'll be limiting vegetation removal to the extent that we can, and it's going to have minimal light nighting. And here's a number of different investigations that we've done. There aren't any endangered species or other things. We are near Joshua Tree woodland habitat, but there is none on the site. We have filed our permit applications with LA County in March. We've had public scoping meetings, and the next time when there's public comment available will be when the draft EIR is issued in January. We expect to have our permits in hand in July of 2010. We expect to start construction in October and to be fully operational at the end of 2013. As a PV project, as we build it, we can start delivering power from increments. And so the first power will be delivered around August of 2011 when the Whirlwind substation is complete. And then as the project is built out, more and more components will come online. It'll be done around the end of 2013. We expect to have about 300 construction jobs and about 16 to 20 full-time operation jobs, and we expect to hire most of both of those categories locally. And that's it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'm curious, what's the cost per kilowatt hour?
Well, it's less than the market price referent. The actual cost is confidential, but the market price referent is something that the California PUC establishes, and if you're below it, then you're per se reasonable. And in this case, the market price referent is approximately 13 cents a kilowatt hour, and then that's weighted. So if you deliver on-peak power, you get more of a weighting, and solar is an on-peak resource, so you get paid. It's roughly 20% more than that.
I see. You anticipating any storage facilities? I mean, battery storage facilities?
No.
Okay.
No, we're not. We think that the utility can handle that better itself as it manages the entire grid rather than putting it in one project.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Assuming, and hopefully this will be quite a successful project, thought about expanding any larger after 2013?
Well, we haven't. We're always looking for new opportunities, but we don't have a concrete expansion for this particular site.
When does the government subsidies end?
There are two different types of subsidies, but there is a investment tax credit that solar gets, and that runs, I believe, till the end of 2016. But because of the financial crisis, as part of the stimulus package, in lieu of the investment tax credit, you can get a grant instead.
Sorry, you can get what?
Well, it's a grant instead, and it's because there's not enough people who can take advantage of the investment tax credit currently. And so instead of getting the tax credit, you receive a grant. And that to get that, you have to be under construction by 2010.
At the end of 2016, is it still profitable to operate it?
Oh, yes.
Really?
Yes. In any type of solar project, it's mostly capital. So once it's built, the operating costs are very low. So
I see.
It'll continue operating for a long time.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming to the Antelope Valley.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. All speaker cards must be filled out and submitted prior to the agenda item being called. This same rule applies if you wish to speak on a non-agendized items at the end of the meeting. Following this process will allow us to conduct a timely and orderly meeting. Thank you. Let's move on to the consent calendar. We're removing CC 21.
Mayor Paris, on the consent calendar, RCC 2, I need to recuse myself because of the location of the property and located to a residence that I own as well. So I'll step out of the room.
Okay. Well, let's do the consent calendar, and then we'll do RCC 2, and you can leave then.
Were you going to remove CC 9 as well?
On agency access.
Yes, we're going to remove CC9 and place that on the July 28th agenda, and that's the Lancaster Performing Arts Center Foundation, and I will do that at the same time that I do the changes in all the commissions. Okay.
And then CC13 and CC20.
And CC13 and CC20, I'm going to recuse myself on because it involves or is near the property that is owned by my wife.
At this time, I'll move that we adopt the agency consent calendar, which is comprised only of RCC 1.
I'll second that.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. And as Mr. Mann wants to vacate, we'll do RCC 2.
I'll move that we adopt RCC 2.
Second.
Vote. It's unanimous with Mr. Mann absent. Okay, let's do the council consent calendar
I'll move that we, I'm sorry.
with the absence of CC 9, 13, 20, and 21.
I'll move that we adopt the consent calendar as currently comprised.
Second that.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if it's your wishes, then, as you leave the room for these two consent calendar items, we can continue with JPH 1, which you're recusing yourself on also.
That's fine. Okay.
We'll just get you after it's finished.
And that's for the same reason. Okay, thank you.
Okay, let the record reflect that the mayor's left the room. Do I hear a motion on CC 13 and CC 20?
So moved.
Second.
Go ahead and vote. It's unanimous with Mayor Paris recusing himself. I'll now open up the public meeting for joint public hearing number 1. Do I have any speakers cards or any correspondence? Anybody in the audience that wishes to speak? Without objection from the council, I'll close the public hearing, waive the staff report, and I'll entertain any motions.
Move adoption, resolution number 11-09. Can we do these together?
No, they're separate, city council and agency.
Okay.
Do I hear a second?
I will second that.
Call for a vote. It's unanimous with the mayor out of the room recusing himself. Do I hear a motion on the resolution 09-63?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Call for a vote. Unanimous with the mayor recusing himself. Let the record reflect that the mayor is back in the room, and I'm turning the chair over to him.
I know, I just checked to see where we are. Okay, good. Okay, City Clerk?
We're on the next page.
What has happened to my...
CPH 1, CPH 2.
Okay. We got it mixed up. Okay. CPH 1. Staff has recommended that this matter be carried over to the council meeting on August 11th, so we will move on to CPH 2. This item was continued from the previous meeting, and we will hear from Brian Ludicky, the planning director.
Mayor Paris, members of the City Council, this is a continued hearing from the 23rd of June, at which time you heard a report from me regarding the proposed general plan update. Much as I'd like to give you that full report again, I will not. However, at that meeting, there were 3 issues that were brought up by the council, one of which I think was pretty well resolved, and that is in regards to the northeast corner of Avenue M and 30th Street West. where it appeared there was a council consensus on how to approach office professional designation on that corner in regards to a proposed Hindu temple. However, there were two other issues that the council asked for additional information in regards to. One was the proposed buffer that the Planning Commission had recommended on the east side of the prison site along 50th Street West. The other involved 120 acres in the vicinity of 110th Street West and Avenue J, and the potential for placing an urban residential designation with a specific plan overlay on that site. You have been provided by the city attorney a couple of memorandums in regards to both of those items for your review and consideration in your deliberation. I do have available both the overall proposed plan as recommended to you by the Planning Commission and larger scale areas of different locations in the city in case there are any specific areas you'd like to discuss further, or if you have any speakers who want to discuss specific areas. But with that, I would indicate that once you have reached hopefully some resolution on these outstanding issues, staff would recommend that you adopt Resolution 09-52, amended in whatever way you ultimately determine, that would essentially adopt the revised general plan for the city and the appropriate environmental documents and findings related to that.
Thank you.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, on the if I could talk about we have the two issues, and one of them is the specific plan overlay with an underlining designation. I know my other two colleagues that have been on the Planning Commission with me before, we've had lots of discussions of how do we get developers to actually, or builders to accumulate enough property and put it into a specific plan that we actually get something like Santa Clarita, so we don't have this postage stamp process. I know the mayor had requested and was concerned, rightfully so, that we don't put ourselves in a bind with doing an underlining designation with a specific plan. I know I read through Mr. McEwen's memo, and it shows that basically with the specific plan, there is not going to be any building out there because the general plan will specify that you're going to have all the infrastructure and all these things necessary in order to get the specific plan right. One of the things that our citizens have been saying numerous times is give us a heads up on what you're going to be doing. Now, we all know that once the city builds out there, we want the specific plans out there to be these beautiful urban residential areas with greenways and parks and nice residential areas, just like some of the other cities that have one landowner, like Newhall Land or Irvine Company. And so I think it's important that we do a urban residential underlining designation with a specific plan overlay, because to me, if I was a developer, why put yourself under the thumb of the council? And we've all gone through specific plans, and it's quite onerous for us to put them through the hoops. And so I think it not only tells the citizens, when we build out here, this is the future that we want. We want it to look like a Santa Clarita. And also tell the developer, give them some assurance that, yes, it is. Because as I see it right now, the way it is, if you have a non-urban residential underlining designation. I've talked to this before, that it's not only for what we believe now. If we were on council 20 years from now, we would all say, hey, this is what we want. We want something like Santa Clarita. But you could have another council that say, yeah, we want a specific plan, but it says non-urban residential. We want you to do 1 acre horse properties with a trail. And the developer's going to say, well, that wasn't the intent of the council back when they did the general plan. But they say, well, that's what it's listed now. So that was my suggestion. I watched the Planning Commission meeting when they did the specific plan. I'd like us to someday direct staff to actually look at that whole west side area to see how we can incorporate more specific plans so we get what we want rather than this hodgepodge of building. And so I know Mr. McEwen, you probably all got the memo from him stating that we would be protected by having a specific plan, and that they would have to be in compliance with the general plan before they move forward. So that would be my suggestion, is that we do a underlining designation of urban residential.
So is there a motion?
I'll move that we do that.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any speaker cards?
No speaker cards on that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so we're just voting on that
Just on
one.
that one to adopt, to change that in the general plan.
Any discussion? Let's vote.
That was well covered.
It's unanimous.
Well, Mr. Mayor, on the second one, we had a good discussion about the buffer around the prison. And
Did you
I
like
think-
that discussion?
Yeah, I remember that discussion. It was a good one.
I thought it was a great
It was a
discussion.
lively discussion, but lively discussions are good, you know? You made a very,
The city attorney's been mad at me for 2 weeks.
yeah, it's... saying no.
No, Rex, he was never upset with you. I could tell from the beginning.
I couldn't understand why it would be. But
I just hope everybody read all 232 pages of the cases that I sent out.
and shepherdized them, I'll have you know.
I doubt that you did that, but I know that they were done.
Okay, so, you know, the mayor brought up a good point, is, you know, maybe the planning commission and the city didn't do their job completely when we had the prison before, and we shouldn't do anything additional, you know, where it puts people in danger. I know that you all have a memo, the sheriff came back and basically said, I never requested a buffer, and I'm not doing it now, but that doesn't negate the responsibility that we have to do proper zoning that we should. Now, I know when the Planning Commission first came up with it, they said, hey, well, why don't we do this buffer here? But what they did was they created 1-acre custom homes. And to me, that doesn't work. Or if somebody might take a step and say, well, maybe they're doing that because they know nobody in their right mind would ever build a 1-acre custom home across from a prison. So you, with all intents and purposes, you've created a taking. So if you could, Mr. Ludicky, if you could give me the pointer and give me the next map. In front of you, I had staff, this is not staff's recommendation, but they'll tell you what I think Brian Ludicky will support this. And I think you got to get out of this and okay.
And if I'm doing technology, that could take...
That's okay. What I thought is, you know, on the mayor's concerns and our concerns of making proper zoning is, what is the proper buffer around the prison? Now, as you know, we already have some beautiful homes south of it. We have some multifamily residential to the northwest of it. We have some multifamily residential that is basically by government code has to move forward because they've got their permits in, they've got their, not their permits, but they've had their applications in, they've got the CUP process, and per government code, they have to go by the old way of doing it. You also have a school that my understanding is the school has already gone through the CUP process, or they're going through also getting an RFP to actually do the design. So what I suggested, and if ever any of you have ever, Brian, what button do I press? The right one? For the laser pointer. Okay. This right here, this brown area, is multifamily residential that now exists. This here is the multifamily, the two projects that are already in the process that, you know, by law, we can't, government code, we cannot downzone. This is the school district. This is a commercial site that the Planning Commission added. The Planning Commission left all this. This is all housing that's all built here. Okay? This gray area that I had staff put around is light industrial. Now, I don't like the term light industrial because it doesn't really describe what it actually creates. You on the council know that. If you've ever driven down Bloomfield Avenue and Cerritos, you have those beautiful business parks, the business parks that we have over here on K8, right? And that truly is a buffer for the prison. Not vacant lot or, and same with the north here. The Planning Commission had left this all rural. But in reality, someday we're going to have to decide, somebody's going to have to decide, what is it going to be? So let's just do it now. And light industrial will be able to supply some restaurants, it could supply office buildings, and it actually truly is the better buffer. Yes, we already have this, we have this, we have these housing that's already built, there's nothing we can do about that. But I think if we're going to take the Planning Commission's step forward of creating a buffer, we not only have to do it here,
but we have to really look around it. So that would be my proposal and my motion, is that we actually amend the general plan map to this, creating light industrial around the areas here and making a buffer here. And this is, I think, this right here, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, is 660 feet, and this is a quarter mile. And I had Brian look at the property lines, because you don't want to cut somebody's property in half and say half is R7000 and the half is light industrial. And it seemed to work out pretty good. But and you can ask Brian. I talked with Brian. He seemed to be, like this particular map, and this was a good use for it. So,
Have the owners of the property been notified?
The owners of the property that were looking at a change in designation, have not been specifically notified. We did have one person way up, if you see where that multifamily area is near the corner of 60th and Avenue I, that had originally requested, they had a property that was proposed as split between moderate density residential and non-urban. The request came back and said, please make my property all one designation, whatever you make it. They didn't want it split. There is one tentative tract map that is approved currently within the buffer or proposed light industrial buffer area north of Avenue J. I would imagine probably about 400 or 500 feet north of there. That's, as far as we can tell, the only approved project that exists within that area, and it's not a project that's moving forward from what we can tell.
Thank you.
So that would be my motion, is that we, the buffer idea was good. I don't think the Planning Commission went far enough, and also I think they didn't really choose the proper buffer for it. And I think talking with staff and talking with the other people in the planning department, light industrial truly is a better buffer. And residential R7000 goes up against light industrial, and I don't like I wish we could think of another name for it. Light industrial makes you think like they're building cars or something, but like I said, if you drive through Cerritos, they have lots of beautiful business parks and homes coming up right behind it. So I think that takes care of all of the concerns that we've had before.
Mr. Ludicky, could we make some type of a requirement that before any building permits are pulled that, well, no, that wouldn't be how we want to do it. What I want is before they put any residential in there, that people buying the property are notified that the jail may expand at some time. Can we do something like that?
I think we could. We have other provisions within certain areas of the city and aircraft overflight areas, for example, where we require notice to prospective buyers. I don't think there would be a problem in doing that.
So can we rely on you to effectuate that?
What I would do from your perspective as a council is I would simply direct that you add an additional specific action. I mean, staff can draft the language post any decision, but and that would place it into the general plan, and essentially that becomes, policy.
Will you amend your motion? We'll do it all at once.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that'll be the motion, that we adopt the map as it now stands, but that we add for all the residential area a part of the conditional use permit for the developer to have all the purchasers sign a letter of what is it called again?
Well, there's a requirement now in all real estate transactions that you have proper disclosures, and certainly the location of the prison is one of those, and we just want to make sure that the disclosure concerning the prison includes the possibility of
the jail expansion.
So we're going to make sure that's in there, and then however they do that disclosure as part of the real estate transaction would be how we'd have
I've seen them have letters at the...
Yeah, I think you have to sign that you've received all the disclosures.
Right. So that would be my motion on that there.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Brian, could you refresh my memory on what sort of controls we have of what goes into light industrial?
Yeah. Good point.
Light industrial allows a number of things, but I think the most important thing that exists within it is that where you have adjacent residential, or actually adjacent residential, I think within 300 feet, there are performance requirements that reduce noise, pollution, things of that type. So there are already built into the city's zoning code restrictions within the light industrial zone. I would also add that following adoption of the general plan, the next step that staff has to take, and it's a long process, but we need to bring zoning into conformance, and we're going to have to go back through our development codes. So you'd have another opportunity at that point to add additional requirements if you think they're warranted.
And the only other thing I think worthy of discussion from my point here is, I think as the Vice Mayor brought up last time, the nature of the detention facility, Mayor Loma, is different along Avenue I than along the other three sides. There's not nice people much closer to the road, and things can get tossed over the fence and things like that. Do you think the light industrial designation north of the facility is deep enough, or do you think that'll have an effect on it? Or is the nature of the way the property lines are set, this is the most logical?
I think that I talked to Brian about that, because we talked about the fence coming right up to the right up to the main road, and we both decided that 660 feet was probably adequate. Especially they can look at the CUP and the track maps when they come out about how the complex is configured. You could always have some of the back walls and some landscaping, setbacks facing the jail on that side.
Fair enough.
Okay.
So we need a second?
I'll second that.
Do we have to open up this to public comment before we vote?
We don't have any speakers cards.
Well, how would they know to?
If you don't have any speaker cards, then you don't have to.
Okay, but if anybody does want to comment, since we're now changing things around, now's the time. Yes, ma'am. Just come up and give us your name, and we can go from there, okay?
Hi, I'm Athena Boyer. I'm with Royal Investors, and we are the...
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
Athena Boyer with Royal Investors. I just want to ensure that when you do adopt this update, that we won't have any changes to our maps with codes or having it right up next to our property lines.
Where's your property line?
Well, we're immediately adjacent. Actually, we abut the gray areas to the north and south. So if we adopt this tonight, will we have to make revisions to our maps that are going ahead for Planning Commission like next week and then from there on out?
I think I understand your question. There is a proposal before the Planning Commission now, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, there is some concerns, I understand, about the parking and the way the project is designed.
And those have all been addressed. But if we adopt this, is there going to be further changes?
I wouldn't foresee any. What do you think, Mr. Liddicky?
My initial reaction is no, because most of the requirements for buffering performance the onus would be on the light industrial development, should it occur in the future.
And
you don't want to redesign your project?
No, not really.
Mr. Mayor, in addition to that, the government code section provides that for those projects who have completed applications in, that they are approved based on existing law, not on any changes that we might make.
I thought you were pretty safe.
Okay, great. Just want to make sure.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, let's close the pseudo-public hearing and want to vote?
Did you declare it, Jerry?
And it's unanimous.
In that case, now, Mr. Mayor, we have made several changes to the general plan update. We did the property that was Avenue M, which was the Hindu temple. We made the language changes to the general plan. We did the buffer zone here, and we also did the specific plan overlay. With all those changes, then, I would move that we. I'm trying to see where it is here. I would move that we adopt resolution number 09-50.
Wait a minute. If anybody else, any speaker cards, anybody else want to make any changes to the general plan before we approve it? Any proposals. Yes, sir. Yes.
Mr. Paris and member of the City Council, City staff, my name is Abe Nijam, representing AV Design Group. The general plan, I would like to appreciate, first of all, the city staff in working on the general plan amendment, that they work very hard on that. And I understand that the general plan amendment is a mutual work between the citizen of Lancaster and city staff. The new general plan amendment and zone changes, it focused a little bit also in downtown Lancaster, where they have small businesses and single or senior homes and so on. And I have a project in front of Desert Christian School at 15th Street West. And I have my client asked me to request a change order or a zone change from single family home to high density residential. And that by increasing the density of the zoning in that area to higher density, that will probably provide more support to the businesses in downtown and so on. And we prepare some tentatively plan for what we're proposing. With your permission, I would like to present this to you gentlemen. And to the
If you could hand it to Mr. Ludicky, and perhaps Mr. Ludicky could help me understand what's happening or what the request is.
Is that the property that was going to be the preschool that we approved? Yeah. Sir, is that the property that, well, when I was on the Planning Commission with Councilman Mann, that we approved as a preschool?
No, sir. We
Yeah.
had a tentative track map for that, or parcel map for that particular, that was approved for 4 parcels, and the owner was not aware of the zone change, and then lately he has been visiting the city of Lancaster, and he mentioned that he would like probably to see if he can do a senior citizen in the area or provide some higher density and that will provide, like I say, more support to the business core of downtown city of Lancaster. His property is 2.5 acres. Adjacent to that, very close, there is high-density area. I think it's included in the zone change.
Is that 2.5 acres behind those 2 houses that have already been built?
There is, yes, sir.
Are those two houses yours also?
No, they're not.
So you're behind those 2 houses?
We're to the south, immediately to the south of that.
Yeah. You want your pointer back?
It's in the area, looking at the map, it's directly west, across 15th Street West from Desert Christian School. The Planning Commission didn't consider any potential change in this. They've still got it designated on the recommendation as urban residential. A couple of things I would note. They did consider whether or not to make a change in property that was a little bit south of this. Ultimately, as you can see from that, chose not to do that. And one other thing that I think might be relevant to this, and I don't know, quite frankly, because I haven't had time to really look at the proposal. Within the general plan policies and specific actions, there are 2 things that might serve to deal with this without going through some kind of a land use change. One is there is a specific action that calls for the city to amend the zoning code in single-family residential areas to allow a little bit of a higher density to encourage infill development, so that you don't have situations like this that become uneconomical. And I'm not talking about huge amounts. I'm saying normally within urban residential designations now you can get up to about 6 some odd per acre. That would allow them up to 8 units to the acre without going through a general plan amendment and a zone change. The other thing that is within the policy document is it calls for the city to liberalize, if you will, the number of zones and locations that they will allow various kinds of senior and elderly assisted housing. And if that's the type of project that this client is looking at, it may well be that that kind of provision will become allowed anyway within the change in the zoning code through a CUP and other process. The difficulty, of course, is if you put a moderate or a high-density residential designation on it, you basically allow whatever that zone allows. And I'm not certain that in that setting that's something we want to go and do. The Planning Commission certainly was very leery of it, and as a staff member, I'm not sure I'd stand here right now and endorse it.
So is this something that was already proposed to the Planning Commission?
No, they were not aware of it, and I haven't seen it. So.
No, I wouldn't make that part of my motion right now. I think this is not the venue for that. I think, one is you're making it, as Brian Ludicky said, if you want to do seniors, you have to go through the CUP process so that we can guarantee that it is. If we do something like this in the general plan, this opens it up to everything, and there are avenues that you can, take your property through to actually get to where you're wanting to go. But I think it needs to go through the Planning Commission and let them decide whether or not that's the proper use across from Desert Christian School and the preschool that's going to be built, and let them make that decision. So that, I won't be making that part of my motion.
Okay. Thank you. Let's take a 10-minute break. Thank you. General plan, everybody that has any issues has the opportunity to come forward. And if I'm feeling confused, I'm sure, well, maybe that's not true. Maybe I'm the only one feeling confused. But with that, Mr. Sinclair, if you want to.
I was just wondering if this is the proper time to be asking for the rezoning of the southwest corner or the southeast corner of 30th and K. I understand there was a CUP on that property, and I think it's near the time for expiration of that. And I was just wondering if that never gets built, then
I think I have to recuse myself on this. Is that correct?
I believe so.
This is the one where Andy Iliopoulos owns the property, and I'm suing Andy. And
I believe that's the case, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. For the reasons that I'm suing Mr. Iliopoulos for fraud, I guess I can't vote for this, can I? Thank you.
We're against it.
No, you're in the hot seat now, dude. Okay, let the record reflect the mayor's left the room, and so, Mr. Sinclair.
What's the requesting?
What's the request?
I was just wondering if this is the proper time to be, since we're updating the general plan and going through different rezonings, and that property had a CUP on it, but my understanding is it's about ready to expire, and I'm just thinking if that doesn't, it looks like it's not going to be built, then do we have the option to change that property back to residential, or is it vested as a state commercial? I'm just wondering how that works.
I believe it's mixed use. It's mixed use. You were the chairman of the Planning Commission at the time.
Yeah.
I think the issue that comes into play is that right now it has an approved conditional use permit on it. Mr. McKeown, I think we touched on this in terms of the buffer last time, but could you some enlightenment on that?
It's the same issue. If they've submitted, in this case, they've not only submitted an application, they've got an approved CUP, and so they have certain rights that go with the issuance of that CUP that you can't downzone the property underneath that and take that away from them until it has expired. And so the simple answer to the question is no, this is not the right time.
Yeah, if I may speak, as much as I'd like to change it maybe back to residential, I think it's mixed use. Is that not correct, Ryan? It's not commercial. I'm trying to remember now, because we had residential, multifamily residential to the east, and then we
to the
had
south.
commercial to the west and to the north.
Yeah, the recommendation, though, to echo Mr. McEwen's thing that he just said, the Planning Commission's recommended plan mirrors what the approved conditional use permit is for the site. So it is partly commercial and partly moderate density residential.
Right.
And those do reflect the approved CUPs. The CUP, I believe, does have an initial 2-year approval that would come up for an extension, I believe, in December. It does have the ability, or the applicant has the ability, to ask for extension at that time on the approval of the CUP.
Case in point, question would be, this say, in the meantime, would we not be in a position, or would not the Planning Commission be in a position, maybe we just be public about this, that at the time of the extension of the CUP, could they not make changes to the CUP at that point in time?
They could certainly ask for added conditions or other things relative to the development plans, which are, obviously what the CUPs cover. It wouldn't be within their purview to make, at that point, changes in the underlying land use or zoning.
That's CUP being separate from land use designation. My concern is the biggest issue there was correct buffering between the project and, if I recall, and the residential. That was my biggest concern. So obviously, if it expires or comes up for renewal, then maybe some good decision-making might prevail. So I'll be quiet.
Okay. But in answer to your basic question, the recommended plan mirrors the current approvals.
So do I hear a motion on any of that then? Okay, absence the motion, then I will ask the mayor to step back here. Let the record reflect the mayor's back in the room, and I'll turn the chair back over to him.
Okay, is there a second? Is there a second to the Vice Mayor's motion?
I made the second.
Let's vote. And it's unanimous.
Now, if I can make one comment on this.
Just one?
Just one. And I think you'll make the same comment, and you will too. Is that, this was one, easy night of a vote. This has been, Brian, how long has this been going on now that we've been working on this? I was on the commission for a couple of years while we were working on this.
Yeah, we actually initiated the general plan in early 2006, and 2006 was a lot of public outreach and so forth. So
But
it's been a good.
We were talking about it.
It's been well over 3 years.
For a couple of years, even before that. This has been a lot of work. I'd like to just thank staff for just a fantastic job. The Planning Commission, our councilwoman was actually on the General Plan Advisory Committee. I think a couple of our commissioners were on the General Plan Advisory Committee, and it has been a lot of work by the citizens, a lot of input. We had stuff at the Poppy Festival where people were giving input. This has been just I have never seen more community outreach and involvement in anything here in the city ever. And this has just been just a great job, and my hat's off to everybody that was involved in this. Great job.
It is surprising it's without controversy. I was expecting to be here for 3 weeks.
Wait till next week.
Pelka's not even here tonight.
Anybody check on him? Is he sick? I'm sorry, what?
The All-Star game is on tonight, which is cutting into our attendance.
Oh, okay. Okay, moving on to new business item 1. We'll now hear from Acting Public Works Director Robert Neal.
We have no speakers cards on this, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Before you tonight...
I know we could waive the presentation, but this is his
This
first...
is Robert's first one.
Right,
Yeah.
this is his inaugural presentation.
Yeah.
No pressure, Robert, just go ahead.
Remember, you're on TV now, Robert, so.
That makes me really nervous.
And you're only the acting director. This could be one of those pivotal career moments. But I don't want you to get nervous or feel pressured in any way.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and beloved City Council. Before you tonight is the introduction of Ordinance 928, modifying Title 8, Chapter 8.5 of our municipal code, which is entitled Landscaping, Installation, and Maintenance. The proposed ordinance amends the applicability of our current Ordinance 907, Water Efficient Landscaping, to projects greater than 2,500 square foot, and brings the municipal code into conformity with the latest version of the last updated state model landscape ordinance, which is required by State Assembly Bill 1881. My staff and I have worked with lots of residents who want to install water-efficient landscaping, reduce the amount of turf they have, but are deterred by the existing ordinance requirements for such things as fully developed landscape plans, smart controllers, and other water conservation features. I believe this ordinance, although easing permitting requirements from 1,000 square feet to 2,500 square feet, will actually result in more water-efficient landscaping to occur. So it's staff's recommendation this evening to City Council to approve the introduction of Ordinance 928, modifying the applicability of water-efficient landscaping requirements to projects greater than 2,500 square feet. If you have questions, I would be glad to answer them.
Mr. Mayor, I look back, this is one of the things that I had asked staff to bring forward. When we went through our water workshop, remember when we went through all the things? That was one of our suggestions, is that we actually conform to the 2,500, and somehow it slipped through the cracks, and it was left at 1,000 feet, and that's when Gary Burgess, and so this is sort of like making it into conformity, because we don't want citizens to have to not do something they want to just because they got to go through all these hoops and everything. So I'll move that we adopt Ordinance 928.
I remember the discussion well. I would second that motion.
Okay, let's vote. Thank you, Mr. Neal. You performed admirably. Moving on to new business. Oh, it's unanimous. Moving on to new business item number 2.
There are no speakers' cards, Mr. Mayor.
Jason Caudell.
Mayor and honorable council members, thanks for the opportunity to speak to you today. I hope I can follow in Robert's shoes. In 2008, Senate Bill 1369 was passed and signed by the governor, changing and modifying Penal Codes 326.5 to allow the changing in value prizes for the bingos, for the bingo operators, from $250 per prize to $500 per prize. The bingo operators contacted us informing us that our current ordinance is not in conformity with the state law, and that we should change that to accommodate their operations. The ordinance before you today makes that change. It has no impact on the city financially or for the operation of the city, but potentially has a revenue generation or increases the revenue opportunities for the bingo operators. With that, I'd recommend that you introduce ordinance number 929, amending section 5.08.140 of the Lancaster Municipal Code.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll move that we adopt ordinance number 929.
I think it's an opportunity to enhance the revenue of the bingo player as well, and I would second that.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. Okay, council agenda, none. City manager, any announcements?
Yes, sir. One, I'd like to point out this weekend we had the largest softball tournament I believe we've ever had, Bob. The park was full. There was lines outside the vendors near there, including Costco, Chronic Taco, and Jamba Juice. It filled up hotels throughout the valley, and it's a continuation of what the city of Lancaster is doing for the entire valley. I'd like to commend Bob and all the other departments for doing a great job this weekend. Secondly, as the Vice Mayor mentioned, the general plan update is truly a great accomplishment for any city. It was handled flawlessly, I believe, in this case, and it's not something that cities do every year. You do one every decade or so, so it's very likely that the action you took today and the work of the staff sets the future for this city for certainly the next 10 years. And lastly, Robert, you did do a very nice job, so you could do another one now.
Mayor, if you don't mind, I would like to recommend that two of our staff, Jeff Campbell and John Sanders, were really the people that got the tournament going in Lancaster, did a great job. And because of that, they keep bringing more tournaments our way. And it really does help the local economy. The tournament went flawlessly. They did a great job.
Terrific. Thank you. I understand that Palmdale is thrilled with us for filling their hotels. Is that correct?
We actually got a letter and thank you, which is the first in my recollection. And it truly is good for the whole valley, so I appreciate that.
This week we have the leadership conference at West Coast Baptist College or at Lancaster Baptist Church. I'm not quite sure who's putting it on. And again, all the hotels are filled. And in fact, a lot of the pastors from around the country are having to stay in private homes because there just aren't any rooms for people to stay. And I understand our city attorney is camping out underneath his airplane. Is that right?
If it only stayed here while I was here. No, I found a room.
Maybe Palmdale can give us 0.5% of trench tax.
There you go again, pushing.
Hey, it was a shot.
Is that a motion?
Raised it.
Is that a motion?
Just raised it.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay. We have speaker cards or non-agendized items. Does the city clerk need to do an announcement first?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the time for you to address the City Council on any items that are not on the agenda. You'll find speaker cards at the back of the council chambers. We ask that you fill them out completely and concisely, as clearly as possible, so that if we do need to get a hold of you, we'll be able to read the card. We ask the individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. When you approach the podium, you'll see 3 lights. The green light comes on when your time begins, the yellow light comes on when you have 30 seconds left, and the red light comes on when your time is up. We do ask that you be considerate of the 3 minutes to allow other speakers to have their 3 minutes as well. Following this procedure will allow for a smooth and timely process for the council meeting. Our microphones are very sensitive and able to pick up your voices. Therefore, we respectfully request that you do not try to adjust them. State law prohibits the City Council and the Redevelopment Agency from taking action on items that are not on the agenda, and your matter will be referred to the City Manager. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg and Diane Butts, High Desert Heat and Track Club.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and the Council. My name is Greg Butts. I am the president of High Desert Heat Track and Field Club. This was our first year in existence. To my knowledge, there hasn't been a youth track and field club in the city of Lancaster. So me and my wife took it upon ourselves to start a youth track and field club. This year we had, our first year, 115 athletes compete. And beyond our wildest dreams, 6 girl athletes qualified for this year's USA Track and Field Junior Olympics, which is in Greensboro, North Carolina. Okay, our Bantam girls, which is 9 and 10, their 4x100 meter relay team won the USA Track and Field Region 15 Championships, which advanced us. We had one young lady. She advanced in the 10-year-old in the 400 meters. She's currently ranked number 4 nationally. And we had one young lady, her name is Vanessa Lopez. She qualified in 2 events. She qualified in the 1,500 meters, in which she won, and she qualified 3rd in the 800 meters. Again, I say that's a tremendous accomplishment. In order to qualify, we are in the Southern California Association. They have the Nevada Association and they have the San Diego Association. The top 8 athletes from each association advances to the regional championships in every event, in every age group. Out of those 24 athletes, only the top 3 advance to the Junior Olympics. And so we have 6 athletes, and however, we're short funds to get them, and we wanted to come to the council. We're looking for donations from, the business member or ways that we can raise the money. We're looking to raise around $6,000 for the athletes to make this trip, and of course their parents. Parents are a little reluctant to send their children across country, by themselves. We plan on leaving July 28th. The Junior Olympics are from July 28th through August 2nd. That's it.
So how much more do you need?
We need about $5,000 more.
That's a short window.
Yes, it is. We realize that. I was advised come talk to the council, and maybe you guys could help us fundraise or, donations or whatever it would take to try to raise that amount of money in such a short period of time.
Have you talked to Mr. Green?
No, I have not.
Would you look into this and see what we can do to help? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And tell your kids, wow.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Scott.
That was the consent calendar item, and she's late. Just came in just a few minutes ago.
Thank you for your time. I hear it was happening here on the 7th and the 8th with the meeting that was here. I was on vacation during the July 7th and 8th meeting, and about the proposed super centers across the street from the Quartzville High School. I'm sure it was carefully planned to coincide with the 4th of July week and the one and only holiday when school is out for summer recess to catch as many opponents as possible on vacation. But I heard the attendance was so large a second room had to be opened, and the opponents for the Walmart alone spoke for 3.5 hours. Then the discussion for Target was pushed off to the next day at noon when most opponents could not attend because they had to go to work or open up their shops. I heard the supporters for Walmart were allowed to speak first and go home early, while those opposed had to wait until all the supporters had their 3 minutes before they had a chance to speak. For the zone change and the conditional use permit meeting for those projects to be held on July 21st at 6 p.m., would you mix up the speakers so supporter speakers are followed by an opposition speaker? This would be fair for both sides by giving each an equal chance to leave early after they speak. The majority of the Walmart speakers from out of the area and out of the city would still get to be home at a reasonable hour and still would be able to collect their overtime pay. Even though the residents and the business owners most affected by these projects have less distance to travel, many did not stay to speak because their non-Walmart bosses would not have been as understanding about sleeping in the next day, and some needed to open up their stores on time. If so many people take the time out of their lives to attend the July 7th meeting and this upcoming July 21st meeting, then they should at least be given some consideration. After all, we are the ones who will be affected by the crime, the traffic, the business noises, the losses, the smell, the trash, and the air pollution. So again, I'm requesting the alternation of supporters and opposition speakers for the zone change and conditional use permit meeting on the 21st. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott, do you really think we sit around and think up ways to keep you from speaking? I mean, do you really believe that?
I feel that it just happened to be a coincidence. I don't think that it was done on purpose, and that's why I'm making the request now.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric Burashendo.
Is it getting better each time with your name?
Maybe, maybe not.
I'm working on it. I'm slow.
The final EIR for both the Commons and Lane Ranch projects admits they will create a significant impact to air pollution in the neighborhood around Quartzville High School and Joe Walker Middle School. Delivery trucks for Walmart will run the length of the high school on Avenue L, the same running path used by students training for track and field. The diesel trucks will idle the traffic at the intersection of Avenue L and 60th across from the grass area where band and cheerleading practice is held. They will spew out exhaust when the new signal light across the varsity baseball diamond turns green, and then will belch out suits as they slow to take the turn into the primary loading dock at the corner of the football field. Walmart and Target will pay the realign student parking lots to match the entry to the shopping centers, but not to increase parking for students when the project's development reduces student parking on the vacant lot across the street. With limited parking, many students will park inside the shopping centers, and I'm sure they will be issued parking tickets. I'm equally sure the city of Lancaster will be happy to collect the parking fines. It will be just another way these shopping centers will generate income for the city. The next will Lancaster install photo signals to collect the $400+ right-hand turn fines from students. An 8th-year study conducted by the UC Berkeley and Columbia University of 1 million California students found a significant correlation of student obesity and fast food located within easy walking distance from the student's school. The researchers suggested banning fast food near schools to combat obesity. As of July 1st, California law bars schools from selling sodas, fries, baked goods, and other foods made with oil on campus. The Walmart project plans to line up the fast food all along the front of the high school down Avenue L. The same unhealthful items that offer little or no nutritional value, such as snacks and sodas, fried foods, and others that are high in calories and on trans fat, will be sold off campus just a few steps away. Why do the students of Quartzville High School and Joe Walker Middle School have to suffer the exposure of unhealthful air and food? What's in it for us besides floor health and tickets?
Thank you. Cleo Goss. Hi. Before you start and before your time starts, you seem to be my contact person with the people that are opposing the Walmart project. So
And the target.
and the Target, yes.
Not prejudiced.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You're equally okay.
You're equally not liking a supercenter across the street from the high school.
I've been thinking about the way the Planning Commission went and the inordinate amount of time that was spent. And so I'm trying to think of innovative ways to make the process more meaningful. And I understand that there are people that really, want their moment to come and tell me what a bum I am and make it very personal. But there's also people that really have some intelligent, and you're one of them, comments to make and observations and concerns about that project. I'm wondering if we couldn't expand the time available, but limit the number of people by agreement. And I'm thinking that if both, let me just tell you what my proposal is, and then you can find out if the various people are in agreement. My thinking is that if we did 10 minutes per speaker card, if there were only 10 speaker cards from each side, that might be a way to do it. And I'm just proposing that as a possibility. And I'm also open to any ideas either side might have. But I watched the Planning Commission on the internet. I was out of the state, but I watched a good portion of it. And it just was clear to me that some people were serious and sincere and had something meaningful to say. Some people, were just saying the same thing, and some people just wanted to be insulting. And that was as far as the people who wanted to just had the same thing to say. It was just repetitive and just kind of wore everybody down. That was true on both sides. So it's just a thought.
Well, I think the fact that so many people showed tells you how much we are affected by this.
I totally get that.
Okay, and that's the only way you got it, is having a number of people showing up. And to prevent them from saying their things.
Well, I kind of, actually, Cleo, I kind of get it when people come up to my wife in restaurants and scream at her. I kind of get that it's an important issue to them. I kind of get that it's an important issue to them when she answers the phone and anonymous callers say the most obscene things to her over it. I understand that this is an emotional issue. I've never doubted that this was an emotional issue affecting a lot of people. What I'm suggesting is, I don't think any of us have made up our minds about this. I've told you what my concerns were. If they are addressed, and I'm convinced, it could go either way. And when what I saw at the Planning Commission just didn't strike me as something designed to persuade. It's up to you. I'm just throwing it out to you. If you guys want to do something creative in how we do the time and how we give people the opportunity to speak, I'm open to it, okay?
I don't think we should ban anybody from speaking.
I'm not saying you ban them. I want to be clear on that.
If they happen to repeat over and over and over again about crime, that tells you how very important it is to them.
Okay, it's just a suggestion to you.
Over and over.
But there seemed to be some concern from the Courts Hill people, the way the Planning Commission provided the time and how it was distributed.
Yes, we were very concerned about that because a large majority of the people never come to these things. And when they came to that and they saw over and over, we had to hear the public testimonies of Walmart employees about how great it is for them to have a job.
But we had to hear over and over what a bum I was. I mean,
no,
isn't it fair that
went over and over and picked on you? We stuck to the EIR.
Okay.
We stuck specifically to the EIR and brought up specific issues.
But I do agree with you. I think that it is a waste of time to hear all the employees essentially say the same message. But I also think it's a waste of time to hear the same message on the other side. But I'm willing to waste the time.
Very, very, very diverse group of people. We had people from Roseman Water District coming there. We had former sheriffs coming there.
And why does the Roseman people
because
have anything to do with
water
this?
From them. That's what he was saying. You're pumping water out to replenish Lancaster's water so you can do more development.
I see. Okay.
Okay? So,
right.
But we had over and over different people talking different issues. They might have added on crime over and over again because that, like I said, is the number one issue. They might have added on whatever, and you've heard it over and over, but then that should tell you how very, very
I totally get it.
are.
I totally get it. But all I'm saying is if you guys want to think about getting innovative and creative and how to have a meaningful public debate that would satisfy everyone's concerns about being heard, I'm just suggesting to you that I'm open to it, okay?
Okay, well, I don't think 10 people would absolutely cover it all.
Okay.
And, I can talk for hours on it.
No, I know you can. I have no doubt about your sincerity and about how much you've prepared and how well you know this subject. It's admirable and how well you've gone after this issue. I just saw a lot of people that did not compare to that, but it's up to you, okay?
Yeah, but, they might
Sure.
not show at the second one. So,
Okay.
if you can give us more time to speak,
Well, I'm negotiating here. I'm not rolling over.
well, if you can at least stagger it, like Mike said, so that we don't all have to sit there and listen to an hour's worth or 45 minutes worth of Walmart employees saying, oh, I just love Walmart.
My understanding, the way I do it, I mix it up and try to make it fun and
Correct.
interesting. But I think the Planning Commission was probably correct that normally how you do these things is you put the proponents first, then you have the opposition, and then that allows for a rebuttal. That's how we do it in court. That's how it's normally done.
We weren't here for the rebuttal because they pushed us last. We had to stay till 11:30 at night.
Okay. Also, you're not going to have to be concerned about that on the when we do it. I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 10 o'clock. We will resume again the next day at either 5 or 6. No, I'm not going to make you come back at noon.
Right.
And if we have to go 3 weeks, we'll go 3 weeks.
That's fine with us.
Okay.
I think everybody should speak and have an equal chance.
Okay.
And I think that's a great idea. Stagger the people.
Well, let me look into that. All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right. So now my speech. It's easy to approve a project or two if it doesn't affect you. If you do not live within a mile of the projects, your businesses will not be impacted, or your children do not attend Courtsville High School or Joe Walker Junior High, then all you can see is that dollar sign and the shopping that will bring the same old stuff to the west side. But if you live within close proximity of these projects and your children attend either school, then your health and your children's health will be affected by both EIR's findings of a significant increase to the air pollution in the area when these projects go operational. The Walmart conditional use permit states backup noise from the daily delivery trucks would be audible to residents south of the primary delivery area. To reduce noise for a future non-existent Lancaster residents from these delivery activities, they will prevent oversized trucks from driving in that area and only driving off the primary loading area off Avenue L. There are no mitigation measures offered to reduce noise for these existing residents in this neighborhood south of the delivery area, where the backup noise will be audible. These projects will ruin the peace and comfort of residents in the existing unincorporated neighborhood. Odors generated from the fast food and restaurants cannot be contained. The stinky fume affects surrounding residents who will no longer be able to open their windows for fresh air or enjoy being in their backyards. Both the EIRs and the CPUs claim that odors from the fast food would be consistent with average household odors. This is ridiculous, because residents do not greasy fry fries 24/7 or cook hundreds of orders of fries, onion rings, chicken, hamburgers for 24 hours a day. A drugstore and Target selling alcohol until midnight, 7 days a week, and a Walmart open 24/7 selling liquor till 2 a.m. will adversely affect the peace and safety of the neighborhood. People out late at night buying liquor when working residents are trying to sleep are either drunk, on drugs, or up to no good. The only access into or out of the unincorporated residential neighborhood south of Walmart and west of the Target projects is 60th Street. These projects will overload the road with unsynchronized traffic lights every few hundred feet, or about 500 feet, and increase traffic by tens of thousands of cars. The EIRs and the CPUs state the projects will toss an unidentified amount of money to LA County to improve the single-lane roads within a 3 by 6 mile area leading to these projects, but it never once identifies a schedule of when or where these things will be happened. These projects will adversely affect the health, peace, comfort, and welfare of residents and students in the surrounding area. It's irresponsible to build across the street from a high school when there is plenty of vacant land on the west side that is not embedded with an existing neighborhood or across the street from a high school. Moving the projects to any other undeveloped land within Lancaster's boundary will still give Lancaster the sales tax dollars and the low-income jobs you so badly want.
You're getting your timing down. Okay, David Paul.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, good evening. I came to the Planning Commission meeting and I had to leave before I speak, so I'm looking forward to addressing that because I do have some comments about this whole process, but we'll save that for then. I wanted to start by telling you guys a riddle. Why did 6 run away from 7? 7, 8, 9. My kids just had their birthdays. They're now 9 and 7. So every night when my little guy goes to bed, my 9-year-old, I tell him, look out in there tonight. They like that. It's fun. Fun. This is what it's about, isn't it? I was watching some of the economic things on TV. Paul Krugman, Bob Woodward on This Week had some thoughts about the economy and where we're going. And it's just fun to pretend we're having a better world. So that's what I want to do right now. Mr. Mayor, I felt pretty bad that you've been kicked around the press lately. I really like you. I feel really good about you. I'd like you to know how I feel about you. I feel about you like, did you see the movie King Arthur, where the Saxon king met Arturo, the conscripted Roman general who was in charge of Britain during the fall of the civilization. And after he met Arturo out in the battlefield, he walked away and he says, finally, a man worth killing. Now, all for the killing part. That's the way I feel about you. I would recommend, though, that if we ever get into an event where there's a death match, that you be barred from wielding a spear in that event in the choice of weapons, because you were just absolutely fierce out there in the potato stabbing contest. But this is what I'm thinking. I watched it, and these are my thoughts. First of all, there was some foul play afoot, I think. Second of all, hasn't anybody ever told you guys that you have to let the ladies win? And especially when it's so close to the tie. I mean, they got to get an honorable mention or something. You know, we need a redo.
The Spuds were in the car first.
I saw it. I saw the video. They definitely had the Spuds in the car before the vice mayor and the city manager.
You just got to get across the finish line.
Yeah, there's something called a finish line or the end of the race.
It's like handing off the baton before the other team.
I want a rematch.
Absolutely. So anyway, this weekend I was at the ball game and I saw Mayor Ledford throwing out the pitch at the Jethawks game, and
what?
I'm obliged whenever I see him to challenge him to box.
It was Palmdale night at the Jethawks Stadium, at the Clear Channel Stadium.
And Mr. Mayor, it gets worse. As I ran up there to confront Mayor Ledford, I found him in the company of our city manager. So that was pretty ugly. But
it's that one city thing we're working on.
You guys really don't have the warrior thing down yet, do you?
Anyway, I'm hoping that we can get a home run derby in our city to settle disputes from here on in, because that's what I'd really like to participate in. So we could do that. I've made some bold promises to the city manager, and I intend to keep them. Thank you.
Mr. Paul, you're a joy. Thank you.
Good night.
We have a Grand Prix coming up, don't we?
Okay, that concludes the speaker cards. Thank you for your input. Council Member Marcus.
The AVTA Board, we have approved the fiscal year 2009-2010 budget. The City of Lancaster's portion is the same as last year's was. The board voted to set a public hearing for proposed local transit route changes, and the board moved to extend Viola Transportation's contract with AVTA for bus operations and maintenance for 2 months. And that was the AVTA. Thank you.
Thank you. Any council comments? Nothing? I have some things I'd like to say. I would like, Nicole, I'm sorry, but apparently your card was addressed to a consent calendar item, and it was submitted late. And, you know, normally I would invite you to speak anyway, but in light of the fact that there's some threatened litigation about how I do the speaker cards, I have to stay within the rules.
Well, really, I don't know the rules, and
No, I don't mean that you, in regards to you, but other citizens have filed some complaints and have threatened litigation about how we do the speaker cards. So it's essential that I maintain absolute consistency. and you were late, so.
Well, you know what? Because of circumstances that I had to be late, and I'm asking you to grant me the late submission.
The city attorney is indicating to me that I cannot do that in light of the fact that Mr. Pelka has some threatened litigation pending against us.
Well, I don't know. Well, can I join it? Because I don't know. Because you know what? You remember about the cheeseburger when, like about a couple months ago, when I was like saying that you had asked where I had been, and I think I restated. I said that I was working on the fairness doctrine, but that wasn't really.
But can we deal with it at the next meeting?
No, sir. We really can't. We really can't.
Nicole, I would really like to help you, but because of the litigation and the city attorney's telling me I cannot, I can't. I'm sorry. Now, I'll be happy to hear you next meeting. I know it seems unfair, but it really has nothing to do with you. It has to do with other problems.
Okay, but on 9-1, let's say that I was the proponent. I'd have some room to talk on being a proponent. And as the plumbing code, I don't really allow you to change it because 15 indicates my plumbing code that you guys copy from the county plumbing code. And so I don't get.
Nicole, let's just wait till next meeting, okay? Please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Okay. Now, I would like to thank the Planning Commission for putting up with an incredibly long meeting with abuse that I thought was totally unwarranted. I thought that there was a small percentage of the people that just came to abuse them. They behaved admirably. I should take a lesson to how they're able to ignore those types of comments. Mr. Ludicky, I thought you were at times treated unfairly, and I know your skin has gotten thick over the years. The Planning Commission, however, doesn't get paid for this. They are truly citizens that are concerned about their community, that put an enormous amount of effort into it, and I was embarrassed for them, and I was hurt for them that they had to put up with that type of abuse. And if you could convey my gratitude and admiration to them. I also thought that Mr. Vos conducted that meeting, and we should keep that film and use it as a training film for how meetings should be conducted. He was just superb. With that, we're now going to adjourn, unless anybody else has any other comments.
Mr. Mayor, we have one additional closed session item to add to the agenda that just came up this afternoon. It deals with the potential for litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9C.
Are we suing or are they suing?
We may very well have to initiate litigation. And this is a matter that cannot wait until the next meeting.
I'll move that we add that to the closed session item under the Government Code Emergency.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. All right, let's adjourn to closed session. We should be back in about 20 minutes for anybody who wants to stay. Thank you.
Give me about 5 seconds.
We're back in session. It has come to our attention that the Mongol motorcycle gang intends to come up this weekend to the city of Lancaster and stay at the Desert Inn. The city staff has attempted to work with the Desert Inn to dissuade them from allowing that to happen. They have resisted our efforts. I want every business in this community to watch what happens to the Desert Inn. They will be out of business by end of week. We will not tolerate anybody in this community aiding and abetting any type of gang activity in this city. As to the Mongols, I want to be very clear with you. Do not come to the city of Lancaster. If you do come to the city of Lancaster, I have directed all law enforcement agencies to do whatever is necessary to incarcerate you. I cannot make this any clearer. Do not come to the city of Lancaster. We do not want it. We do not want you, and we will not tolerate your presence. I cannot make it any clearer than that. As to the citizens of Lancaster, I would encourage you to attend all of the festivities in force, meaning let's not let one motorcycle gang scare us away from the Lancaster Boulevard activities this weekend or the soccer field activities this weekend. We cannot be intimidated by these people. We're encouraging everyone to come to the Lancaster events this weekend. We will have law enforcement out in force. There is no reason for us to be frightened. There is a reason for any gang activity to be, people engaging in gang activity to be extremely frightened. Thank you. City Attorney, do you have anything to add?
Yes. Let me just, to follow up on that, the council did meet as an add-on emergency item in closed session under Government Code Section 54956.9C to determine whether to initiate litigation, and direction was given that we should take all legal steps, including litigation, if necessary, to see that we can, to take whatever steps we can to close the Desert Inn and stop the Mongol Motorcycle Club from coming to Lancaster. Second item, closed session under Government Code Section 54956.9B was to give direction concerning a potential lawsuit, and at this point we are working towards a settlement of that matter, and it deals with the sheriff's contract, which is a settlement has now been recommended by contract cities, and we're proceeding to review that, and then with any appropriate changes to execute the settlement agreement in that case. And the final one was to determine whether any litigation should be filed, or whether or not we should change actions on a certain item, which I think is better left undisclosed at this point because it would harm the potential interests of the city and the public. So no action was taken on that.
We all done? Anybody have any other comments? In conclusion, the people ought to understand that this city council is absolutely united in doing whatever we need to do to resist any type of gang activity at any time, and especially this weekend. And Carol, with that, I'm sure that warmed your heart. I am coming home. My day is done.